The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every Tuesday by sharing the stories and advice of those who are rocking it on the other side. Today, you will learn from Ann Marinovich, Chief Content Officer at Adweek. I recall sitting in my dorm, scrolling through Adweek, reading through the top headlines when I was starting to learn about the industry. It's a publication that's meant a lot to me and so many other people out there, I'm sure. I also vividly recall reading the physical magazine on my post-grad road trip in 2020. My friends and I were stuffed in an RV, and there I was, catching up on the latest pandemic ad campaigns en route to the Grand Canyon. I guess it's symbolic because Adweek has been there to entertain and inform me about the marketing industry. Whether I was a freshman in my dorm or a post-grad embarking on a road trip and starting my podcast, I've always found their content to be an inspiration in my journey. Which brings us to today. I get to sit with the Chief Content Officer of a publication that reaches and touches thousands of people just like us. People who love this industry and are passionate about creative solutions for businesses and the world. Ann sits at the helm leading the company's content strategy and capabilities across all formats, including editorial, events, branded content, social, podcasts, video, and community engagement. So we will talk about the industry, Adweek, her role, a brief introduction to the world of ad sales, and other break-in advice you will not want to miss. And you can connect with Ann. Head over to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. It's all one word. There you can give us a follow and check out the secret resources she recommends just for you. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, and as usual, I am your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Ann Marinovich, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. Thanks so much for coming on. I know you're super busy. I really, really appreciate it. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here to chat with you about everything going on in marketing and advertising.
Heck yeah, because you are the expert, because you are the Chief Content Officer at Adweek. Incredible title, incredible publication that I've been following for a long time. So really grateful to have you on. But how are you doing today? I mean, let's talk about you and what your role is really first and foremost.
Great. Well, I love that you said that you've been a longtime reader of Adweek, and so have I. I've been reading Adweek since the early days of my career, and I remember getting Adweek, the actual physical magazine landing on my desk at work. I was right out of college. It was such a big deal to get Adweek and get to read Adweek. That was when I was at Forbes, and so. This amazing opportunity. I'm 6 months into the role of Chief Content Officer at Adweek. And my job is I run everything content. So editorial, social, video, event experience, our content studio. So really everything content related at Adweek. And for me, what I love so much about my job is, as I mentioned, having been a longtime reader of Adweek and a longtime member of the marketing and advertising community, the thing that really drew me to this role and to this company at this point in time was I've just been so proud to be a part of the community for so long. And it felt like an opportunity to really give back to the community. So for me, this role is the culmination of having been in this industry for 20 years. I can't believe I'm going to say that because there's no way I'm that old, but I have been doing this for 20 years. And I have so many friends, right, who we're trying to figure out what's going on in the industry that we call each other up and we're like, hey, what do you think about the metaverse or this term or that term that you've never heard of? And so now I get to really help the industry understand all the important topics that are going on and ultimately what that means for the industry, what it means for business. So I just think I've got the greatest job around.
Absolutely. And I want to get into the specifics here. So how many content creators or people are in your department in the content sector of Adweek?
It's about 75 people across, again, a lot of different formats. So that's editorial, event programming, social video, podcasts, our content studio, and then our experience team. So really, which is a brand new team that we've launched since I joined the company. So that's really thinking about, the content experience, everything from what the website looks like to, what a attendee of an event, what their experience is going to be, everything from when they register for the event to attending the event.
Gotcha. So 70, 75, you said total-ish?
Yep.
Probably growing more. Where do you stand in all that? How do you oversee all of that? What's your vision for it? What have you done in the past 6 months? What are you planning to do?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's a great question.
It's a big one. Sorry. It's a large question.
I mean, a lot of times it feels like air traffic control.
Sure.
With, a lot of emails in Slack and especially being new to the company, wanting to build relationships with all of those 75 people, and it's a big team. So that's definitely, I think every day it just feels like a lot of moving pieces, but a big part of my role, this is the first time that Adweek has had a chief content officer that's overseen all of these different groups.
Yeah.
So, this is a net new role in the company. And so where I spend a lot of my time and where I have spent the majority of my time in the first 6 months is really understanding the marketing landscape, really going deep into the analytics and understanding the type of content that is really resonating with the Adweek community, talking to people in the community to understand maybe where there's some white spaces that the industry isn't covering. And so really building a new content strategy and focus for Adweek to really think about how we as a 43-year-old brand can continue to evolve and grow from a place of strength. I mean, the brand means so much to so many people and has such amazing brand equity and has provided and been this, really cornerstone for the industry for the last 40 years. But as we all know, the marketing and advertising industry is in and has been, right, in this constant place of transformation, disruption for as long as I've been in it. So making sure that we continue at Adweek to evolve and deliver content and content experiences that are going to help the global marketing industry really be, better at their jobs.
Love it. You mentioned that you're looking at what readers are finding interesting. So what are you seeing high level that people want to read about?
Yeah. I think one of the big takeaways in the last, 6 months that I've been here is there's a lot of content out there. People can get the news of the day anywhere. So, if a company makes a big decision and change, they'll immediately, the internet will be ablaze of the news.
Yeah.
So people can get the news anywhere. I think where people are really hungry is they want content that's going to help inspire them, that's going to provide them perspective, that's going to be, again, help make them smarter in their jobs that they can really learn from. So I think there's that, finding that balance between reporting on the news, but also being able to go deeper and provide insights and perspective and a point of view that you can't get anywhere else. And, that kind of very much aligns with my background, having most recently, prior to Adweek, be at The Information, which is a tech publisher publication that really, focuses on that, like that deep quality reporting. And I think that's really what people are looking for today is a perspective and an insight they're not going to get anywhere else.
Definitely. And I want to make sure our listeners, aspiring advertisers, are first subscribing. And I always kind of promote this. I just recently started doing this, and I'm making sure people know this, but there is a student subscription to Adweek. So I just want to get that out there.
Yeah, there
If you have an email, if you want to talk about that.
No, I mean, I think, we want Adweek to be accessible to everyone. So there are lots of different ways that you can subscribe. There's student subscriptions. We also do subscription special, subscriptions for different type of industry groups, and so there's lots of different ways to be able to access our content.
Yeah, and are there a few series or new content pieces that you think that you're especially proud of, or comes top of mind when you're talking about these deeper connection points rather than just standard news that you want to shout out?
I'm a fangirl of Adweek's managing editor of creativity, creator economy, and DEI, Shannon Miller. Shannon does an amazing job at just about everything. But she launched a podcast earlier this year called Off Madison, which I think is really important. It's really timely, and something I'm really passionate about. I think a lot of the advertising industry, historically, right, going back to the Mad Men days, has been very Madison Avenue focused and very New York focused, and there is still and will always continue to be amazing work in our industry that happens in New York. But there's also so many people in other cities and other markets that are doing amazing work, and particularly in the creative space, that maybe don't get as much attention that they should. And so Off Madison is Shannon going out and talking to people in markets that, again, don't get that typical exposure. Charlotte, North Carolina, and Atlanta, Denver, and so that's one of my favorites.
I love it. Yes, I've been listening to Shannon for a long time. She doesn't know me. I think we might be connected. I don't think she knows me, but I would love to.
She's gonna know you now.
Good. I'd love to have you on the podcast as well. So awesome. I want to ask now real quick, and then we'll get back into how you broke into all of this and your career. We'll kick it back. But really, what makes Adweek different from maybe some other publications out there in the world of the advertising world? Like what's the big difference?
Oh wow, that's an awesome question. I mean, again, I think first and foremost, the Adweek, we have been around since 1979.
Good year.
And it was a good year. I don't know why, but it was a good year.
Because Adweek was born.
Yeah, I wasn't born yet, but Adweek was born. So, I mean, I think there's just this reputation, and I think the founders of Adweek were really forward thinking. And I did a lot of research around some of the quotes from the founders. And one of the quotes that I read from Jack Thomas, who's one of the co-founders, he said that his friends and people in the industry thought they were absolutely crazy because Adweek was really the first publication that was serious coverage of the advertising industry. And I think Adweek has been that cornerstone for helping people understand what's happening in the industry in a way that no one else had provided that before. Yeah. And I think that continues to be. I think there's also a tonality of Adweek today that really stands out, and it's this balance between the ability for us to be a critical resource for marketers and agencies and creatives, but at the same time, Adweek has a really fun tone that's fun that is. And I think we bring that hopefully to a lot of what we do, is finding that balance between serious and fun.
Love it. Totally. I see it. I recognize it. It makes a lot of sense to me. So I believe it. Amazing. Let's kick it back now. So what was a moment you kind of wanted to get into the communications, content world, publication world? Like, where were you when you said you wanted to do this?
I have wanted to do this my whole life. So when I was about 8 years old, I told my family that I'm from California originally, and I told my family I was going to, when I was 8 years old, that I was going to move to New York and go into advertising.
Wait. At 8 years old, you said?
I was 8 years old. I actually have like a picture. I will send it to you. I have this picture that I drew, like it was a school assignment essentially to like make a vision board of like what your life was going to be like. And at 8 years old, I drew myself as an advertising executive.
How? How did you know that?
I have no idea. This has just been, been my passion for my entire life. So, and
Amazing.
life zigs and zags, and things are not
Yeah.
linear. And I ended up majoring in anthropology in college. So, I mean, by no means did I would like from the time I was 8 years old, like stick on this path. But
Sure.
I think when you are really passionate about something and you're meant to do something, even if your path takes you in other directions, you ultimately end up coming back to where you were supposed to be. And I am just, so have loved magazines and newspapers and writing and advertising for my entire life. So again, this job is really the culmination of, a life of just loving this industry.
So how did you break in? What's the story? I mean, was it typical, like you knew, like you studied in school, you had internships, you got your first job, you worked in, like,
No, not at
paint the
all.
picture.
So I mean, I was really into journalism in high school, and I wrote for I'm from Fresno, California, fun and exciting Fresno, and I wrote for the Fresno Bee as a teenager. I was, one of the editors of my school newspaper. But then I got to college and went in as an English major, and then again took this different path, and somehow ended up majoring in anthropology.
Sure.
No idea why. Was just really interested on, why people do what they do. And so kind of like, again, like took this little zig path that was leading me in a different direction. And my senior year of college, I met someone at my cousin's wedding, and we had talked for about 5 minutes. And she says to me, "You need to move to New York and go into ad sales." And I literally laughed at her because I said, "I don't want to sell anything. I'm not a salesperson."
Sure.
But we kept in touch, and she kind of told me about I learned more about what ad sales was, and found out that it was really cool. You get to talk to all these companies about their advertising and marketing strategies, and then help them come up with solutions to grow their business, which just seemed really awesome to me. So fast forward a few months later, I get an email from her that there was a job opening at Forbes in San Francisco as an assistant. And I was like, sign me up. But I wasn't done with college yet. I still had about a month or so, a couple of months actually, before I was going to graduate college. Wow. So I actually arranged with my professors to only go to school a couple of days a week. Sure. And I arranged with Forbes to only work a couple of days a week. And I was like, I need these days off for my college finals and my graduation. And so I started off at Forbes as an assistant. I was there for 15 years. One of the only people who worked their way up from an assistant to an SVP there. And
what's the role though? You say assistant, but like, what was the title? Like,
I mean, like full on executive assistant, like booking travel, doing expenses, like, you gotta do your time.
Sure.
And then I worked my way up, and was in a variety of roles. Sales. I started off on the business side and sales roles, and then went into more strategy and product and content development. And even though I was at one company for 15 years, I think I had about 10 different jobs.
For sure.
And just learned the business.
Amazing. So many. I'm so curious. So tell me more about ad sales then. Like, is this still a career? Like, if looking back, is that something that you would still recommend to people to look into to get into like this business?
I mean, I loved it. Again, I think I got to meet so many people. I loved learning about different companies. So, I got to meet with all these different with these different marketers and learn about their business. And then I got to learn and meet with agencies and learn about the agency business. So for me, I thought it was a great career, especially early on, because you get exposure to the entire advertising ecosystem.
Because
so everything from agencies to the marketer themselves,
yeah,
the media company, you get exposure to measurement and analytics companies. So I loved it because I consider myself a student of the business. And I think it was a great path for me to learn a lot about the industry.
So then where can you jump off from there? Like if you do want to switch, like where are the pivot points? Like when you have to go to a publishing side to do ad sales, correct?
Right.
For the most part. And then where can you go? Where can you, like, having all those skills, having all those experiences with people in different sides of things, where can you jump off?
I think you can go anywhere. And I think that's the fun thing about careers these days is, like you said earlier, like careers aren't linear. So, I mean, I know people who've, jumped off of that and gone onto the product side and are in, product roles at either publishers or platforms. My background is really different. Like the idea that I started off my career in sales and I'm now overseeing, a large editorial and content team is a very unique path. But I think, what I was able to do is, again, I understand how to run a media business and I understand the type of content and content strategy that's going to be really relevant to different communities. So I really think, and I'm a big believer of one of the things, the advice that I always give people, and particularly students just graduating from college or people who are younger in their career and they've only been in the industry for a few years. I love to say you don't need to know what you want to do. You just need to go and have a job that you get to be curious and try new things, and not feel like, that you ever have to be stuck in like, I'm picking this job and now this is my career path. I think if you work hard and you're inquisitive and you're always seeking to learn, there's going to be a lot of opportunities that present themselves. And, I say, follow the path of the things that get you excited to get up in the morning and want to go to work.
Yeah. Love that. What are like the necessary skills, or like what's somebody that's successful in like the ad sales look like? What are those necessary skills and personality traits, perhaps?
I mean, it hasn't been in ad sales for a little while, so I'm
only asking because we haven't really had anybody, like I haven't ever interviewed. I've had the same copywriters, art directors, strategists from every agency. So I just want to go. I wanted to. It's very curious.
I know. I mean, I think to be really good in ad sales today is you have to be a consultative seller. So you have to be a good listener.
Yep.
You have to want to understand, if you're working with a brand and you're trying to do a deal with them and you want them to come in and do a partnership with your company, you have to understand that company, right? You have to remember that at the end of the day, what marketers are trying to accomplish is they're trying to grow their business, which in some form or another means selling a product. And so really understanding their business and how you can bring creative ideas to the table that can help them do that and really is going to help them, show that ROI. I think, going back, since we've already talked a lot about, 40 years ago when Adweek was launched, ad sales was a lot different, right? It was like selling print ads in a magazine. And like, that was really simple and straightforward. Now you really have to be a consultant and really understand media mix and be creative. I think that's the other thing. And I think a lot of times people don't realize that ad sales is a role that you do need to be creative and bring ideas to the table.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I stood out in my career, is I was really truly a partner. Both to the agencies I was working with and the marketers I was working with.
I love it. I'm interested. This is really, I'm going to check this out. I like it.
You should talk to some more ad salespeople. I mean,
Yeah.
interest. Yeah, I think, and to connect this back to Adweek and what we're doing, right, is Adweek gets to be the rallying point for the entire industry.
Yep.
Which is something I'm really proud of. And there are so many different groups of people that make up this industry. And so, I love what you said, you typically talk to these certain types of people and roles, but from where I sit and what I work on is really thinking about, okay, what are all of the different groups?
Yep.
How do they all connect? And I think at the end of the day, what connects everyone in this industry together is the marketer. And I think we sometimes forget that this industry exists to serve the marketer, and it is the marketer who it's their budgets that are fueling the industry.
True.
Agencies, media companies, ad tech, measurement, we are all here to support the marketer and their business objectives. And I think that gets forgotten a lot.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I've been so ingrained with just agencies and the people that I talk to all the time on this podcast. So it's a great reminder.
Yeah, and right. The agency wouldn't exist without the marketer who's their client.
You're right. Right. And there's a lot of shifts going on even today now. We're seeing in-house kind of become a thing. And
yeah, and in-house becoming a thing. Obviously, you're probably much more of an expert on this than I am, but right, agency consolidation.
Yep.
Getting harder and harder. I was talking to a friend this morning who's high up at an agency, and he was lamenting on how it's getting harder and harder to win new business.
So
and so there's a lot of tailwinds across our industry, and that's why I think you always have to go back to the marketer.
Yep.
Because again, they're the ones that we're ultimately serving. So I think that's going to be, it's been something that's been very important to Adweek historically, but particularly as we go into 2023, something you're going to see even more of from Adweek is that focus on continuing to focus even more meaningfully on the marketer, especially in times of economic uncertainty, which we are all facing. That it is, important for us to all understand what's on the mind of the marketer. How can we support them, and what do they need from agencies, from whether that's a media planner or a creative or an ad salesperson or whoever
Sure.
it might be, to support them, because what's happening in the economy is something we all have to be thinking about.
Oh, I can't wait. I really appreciate it. I think we all everybody in the industry will appreciate understanding the marketer side. So we thank you for that.
Awesome.
Cool. Was there anything else you want to get out to the people that are looking to enter this creative field we call advertising? Any other pieces of advice you might have thought of before you hopped on today that we didn't cover?
My biggest advice for everyone is to have fun. Like, this is a fun industry, right? We get to be creative. We get to be solution oriented. And it's just, this is a fun business to be in. I think it's the most dynamic industry in business. And let's all have fun together.
Yeah. You want to do this since you were 8 years old. So this.
I definitely have.
Smart.
And I guess my other advice on that is, always follow your dreams.
Perfect. Can't argue with that. And this has been great. How can people reach out or learn more about Adweek? Where should they go?
You can find Adweek everywhere on all the social platforms, adweek.com. And if you want to reach out to me directly and say hello, I'd love to hear from you. My email is ann@adweek.com.
Perfect. All right, Ann, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this entire episode of the Breaking and Entering Advertising podcast. If you like what you heard, it would mean a lot to us and help us grow and get better guests and better break-ins if you can go to Apple Podcasts and leave us 5 stars and a small review if you have the time. Be sure to connect with our guests if you like what they said by going to our Instagram at Breaking and Entering Pod. That's all one word, Breaking and Entering Pod on Instagram. We have links to their portfolios and their LinkedIn, and they want to connect, so do that. And thank yous. Thank you to Mikey Malarkey, our audio engineer, and Buchan Zhang, our creative director. Can't do it without you two, and a team from the University of Illinois. It's a student team from the agency called AdBuzz. They're a PR agency, and it's been a pleasure working with them. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next week with another amazing guest.